something Gordon said actually made me think of something. He's talking about how he described it as China's kind of incoherent strategy with what it's doing in essentially the South China Sea. And I realize this is kind of the flip side of the salami slicing strategy. In a lot of ways, it seemed like a really impressive strategy. Just slice by slice, you keep moving a little forward, never quite triggering a war, but still moving towards your goal. The example that's often used is the artificial islands. They started building these islands. That's not really enough to say, okay, we're going to war.
Right.
But then they build the islands and then say, okay, stop there. But then they militarize them and they keep expanding it. And it's salami. And it seems like such a really good strategy. But what Gordon made me realize is that the problem with this strategy is there's sort of an infinite space between your slicing and your goal.
So it's like Zeno's paradox?
Yes, it is. So it's very effective. You see them making progress, but does it actually achieve what China wants, which is total control over the South China Sea? Because what is happening is as you keep slicing, eventually all these other countries do get pretty pissed. They see what's going on. They start to turn against China. They start to look for alliances amongst themselves with the U.S., and then there's always still this infinite distance between where China is and where it wants to be, until eventually it would have to do something like start a war. And then it's no
they'd
longer
have to
salami
bomb
slicing.
somebody. They have to attack the Philippines. They'd have to use those military bases, something like that.
But I mean, they've been very close to making an egregious mistake, right? I mean, their clash with the Philippines, the one where they actually, had like axes and spears, and that one guy lost his thumb. The Filipino,
I think it was.
It got crushed, not axed.
Right,
which I thought was interesting.
But like that was so close. I think it was probably closer than China wanted it to be. I think they thought they could intimidate the Philippines to back off, but instead, the Filipino Navy, or maybe it was Marines, were so they were told they couldn't actually fight back,
retaliate. They were told not to retaliate,
right?
Yeah.
But they wanted to, and they were close, and the actual men on the ground or in the ocean, so to speak, were they weren't going to take it. They weren't going to be intimidated, and so it got really serious really quickly. And I think the CCP in many ways sees that as a mistake, because if they had gone just a little further,
if somebody had died,
a very serious disaster for them.
If somebody had died, then this is like triggering essentially the U.S.
Right, exactly. So like they were trying to slice a little bit of salami, but the slice that they sliced was much thicker than the thin slice that they had wanted to slice.
I also wonder if that was just a difference between what's happening on the ground in that moment and the direction of, like, the general direction of salami slicing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if in that moment, like, the Chinese Coast Guard or whatever, like, they wanted to fight more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so this is what I'm realizing. Salami slicing is actually a very bad strategy. Like at the beginning, it seemed good.
It gets you to a point.
Yeah,
I think you're right actually about that. That unless where it gets you to is a point where you've taken a long enough to salami slice that now you have the biggest navy in the world, and the U.S. is in a weakened position, and you are pretty sure that you are going to win this war.
Yeah, except the reaction, the blowback is happening before they get to that point. Yeah. I mean, they do have the largest navy in the world, but.
Right.
It's still not like they can like just snatch the rest of the salami.
Yeah, and like the rest of the salami is like, hold on, wait up. Japan and the Philippines have to make alliances, and Malaysia and Vietnam are getting upset, and this is looking not good.
Yeah. So I thought it was very interesting. Like, because for a long time I thought salami slicing, it's so brilliant, and then you realize, wait, no, actually, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It could have worked. I think the risk is there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as Matt said, like there's always the risk of just like an accidental escalation.
Of course, we know that accidental war isn't really a thing, so
right, but I would say what happened between China and the Philippines in that incident a couple months ago was it's not that the CCP had sent its PLA out there by accident, but I don't think they wanted it to get quite to that point, and it's very hard to control the outcome once you launch anything, whether it's an active war or just one slice, and you try to slice, but you can't always accurately predict or control the size of that slice.
It's like the Hainan Island incident where, like, I'm sure the Chinese jet pilot was given a directive to kind of harass the American plane, maybe buzz it a bit. They didn't tell him to actually crash into it and die.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know if it was. I don't know if he was told to buzz it.
I am certain he would not have been doing something as aggressive unless he had been given some kind of directive or direction to do something to harass.
Right. I mean, but that's what war is. You are rolling the iron dice. You really don't know. And like you look at Putin, who miscalculated. He was successful with his salami slicing of Crimea in 2014. He took a small piece of Ukraine. There was very little pushback, and he thought that he could just, take the rest in one go. Maybe if he had decided to just take a few parts of eastern Ukraine and stop there in 2022, he might have actually been successful with that. But then I don't know if he got greedy or whatever it was, but certainly miscalculated.
I guess you could say Putin is a real dumbass.
It took me a second, Chris.
Not a lot of people can make a pun like that. It requires both a lot of knowledge and a lot of stupidity.
And that's why you watch China Unscripted.
It is. I'm a Taoist master. I've balanced yin and yang.
Yeah. By the way, I thought it was funny that when we did that episode about when you talked about Trump being a postmodern Ubermensch, that a lot of people missed the point you were actually making because they were just writing angry comments about how much you love Trump because you called him a mensch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like people haven't read Nietzsche.
Yeah. So it's a very specific reference that yes. This is like a deep thoughts while gaming conversation.
I should do one on that.
You could.
Or just
Most
stream
people will not watch it. Instead, they will write angry comments.
And it just drives engagement.
That's
sweet
true.
engagement.
It really does, doesn't it?
It does. I recommend you watch that highlight. Donald Trump is a conservative postmodern Ubermensch. It was an equally good observation like I just made about the salami slicing.
Mm-hmm.
And my Donbass pun.
Yeah, but less so.
Are you guys hungry? Maybe we should go get some Fallujah. No, that didn't work.
Oh, God, you should really have quit while you were ahead.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we really hadn't gone off the rails yet, so here we go.
No. I think we've been off the rails since Donbass. I'm pretty sure that that's what's been happening.
At what point does going off the rails become so standard that it's on the rails?